Welcome to the Industrial Marketing Leaders Podcast, the place that brings together experts on what's now, what's new, and what's next in marketing for industrial manufacturers. Now here's the owner of True Focus Media and your host, Jeff Long.
Welcome back to another episode of the Industrial Marketing Leaders Podcast. My name is Jeff Long, and in this episode, I talk with Tim Wilborne of TW Controls about video content and specifically YouTube. Now, he shares his inspiring journey from starting TW Controls with his wife to becoming a leading industrial automation YouTuber. Tim shared some practical tips on what types of videos to create and how to create them, how to get them to perform better, and why you should really make YouTube a priority. Now, we talk about a lot of different things, a lot of practical things, but I wanted to get Tim on because to me, he is like the king of YouTube. He's like a data scientist for YouTube. Now, he gives practical insights and stories from his own experience, as well as what he would recommend even for medium to large companies in the industrial space. I've known Tim Wilborne of TW Controls for several years now. We're in a mastermind group together. We've met up at different events, been at a kind of a private retreat together. He is obviously funny, engaging, knowledgeable, but just a good person, right? I mean, just one of these people you enjoy talking to about life, family, work, all of the above. And so I really enjoyed our conversation with Tim today. So I'm definitely excited for this interview with my good friend, Tim Wilborne. All right, Tim Wilborne, thanks for joining me on the Industrial Marketing Leaders Podcast. Thanks for coming in today.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me, Jeff.
Yeah, so normally I read people's bios and they've been great, but I find that a lot of times people have these elaborate bios, lots of words. So I want to read yours and then compliment you. So Tim is the industrial automation YouTuber that helps you increase your skills so that you can always be in demand. Tim, I think that's probably one of the best bios I've ever read. So thank you.
I appreciate that.
And I think there's value in making something simple and easy to understand, which is, I'm guessing, one of the reasons for your success. So we'll dive into that here in a minute. But before we do, help us get to know you a little bit better, maybe more on a personal level. So whether that's your pet or travel or hobby or something like that, what can you tell us that's unique about you here recently, especially?
Well, since you mentioned travel, last week I just completed a coast-to-coast walk across England. I say it was 192 miles and 13 pubs. So yeah, it took 13 days did a walk across. It was really amazing.
Nice. Now, was the point to get to the pubs or to do the walking? I'm a little...
By the halfway point of each day, the point was to get to the pub.
There we go. I see how it is. Well, good. Well, Tim, I mean, I obviously know you well, know you personally, and have seen, a lot of your success here with your impact, especially on YouTube and other channels. So catch me up to speed and the listener as well. Like, how did you get here? What's your story about how you got into this career and how you got here?
Well, I always like to lead off that Amber and I, we were 8 months pregnant with our first child, and we both quit our jobs and started TW Controls. And I always say, we just didn't know any better. That's why we did it. But really, we're a very family-oriented company. I think that kind of is how we started, and we have stuck to that part. And probably that's why we are still here together, married, and doing this.
Right. What are some of the keys to your success? I mean, that you could start during such a unique time in your life, a lot of pressure, I'm sure, to provide. And so how have you had success through those ups and downs?
We tried a lot of different things. An important part of success is to have a road of failures along the way to it. And so, yeah, I always joke, especially since you are, someone I look up to a lot in marketing, I always say I knew how to build control panels. I knew how to program PLCs. I didn't know how to sell a job. I didn't know how to get in front of a customer. I didn't know how to, do all of those things. And so there was a road of a lot of making mistakes and trying different things. But really, even though the early ones were painful, not being afraid to fail and keep moving forward.
I love that, especially because, with social media and even besides that, people like to put their best face, in the spotlight and show their successes. And I think a lot of times people don't see the struggles that it takes to start a business, grow a business, and sustain it. And I appreciate your honesty of just like it, you've mentioned before, like if you're not failing and trying and growing, like what's the point? Like that's life. Is failing.
Now, we have a sign right here in the training center. If you're not making mistakes, then you're not trying hard enough.
I love it. Yeah, that's so good. So, how did you get into creating video content and putting it on YouTube? That's probably a unique thing, maybe especially when you started.
Yeah, and I always say it was a lot by accident. Amber and I did not have the finances to really start a company. So we had a lot of cash flow issues to start with. And so we tried selling all different types of things online to start with. We tried selling batteries. We tried selling safety glasses. We tried selling mechanics gloves. And one that did work out well was PLC cables. And kind of going back to marketing, it was a little bit of a lead generator of, you sell a cable, somebody obviously has an issue with a PLC, maybe they'll come to you for help. But we were still working in a lot of plants at the time, so it was really noisy. And so we couldn't give really good support. And my initial videos, I mean, even now, and call my videos very grand, they're definitely subpar videos, but they were very dry. Plug your cable in, do this, do that, do that. Very basic to help someone get connected to their PLC. And really, you'd sell 10 cables and you'd probably get 15 views because some people would have to watch it twice. And so we kept coming up with new products. And one of them we came up with was our 4 to 20 milliamp analog simulator. And that one, it's a little more complicated to wire. And there are a few things you need to understand before you even deal with our product. And so I made some videos kind of explaining, here's when you would wire it this way, here's when you would wire it this way. And expecting the same thing, we sell 10 analog simulators, we should get 15 views, but we sold 10 analog simulators and we got 150 views. And it's kind of like, okay, where are these other people at? And especially YouTube at the time, it was definitely not a platform that you saw automation how-tos on. So it was kind of very strange to get that. And so, we started, thinking about, okay, somebody was wanting to know how to connect to a PLC. Can we talk about how to program a PLC? And then they came back and were like, hey, can you make something to help us, be able to understand wiring and understand all these things? And I know kind of the predecessor to the trainers that we do. And then, over time, can you help us learn how to troubleshoot machines? And I always tell people, try to find your passion. And that's when I knew that, hey, I finally found that niche that really was my passion because, I have a maintenance background anyway. That's what I did was work on equipment. And all of a sudden, okay, that's great that you get views and all those things. But when all of a sudden you help someone and you just get that fulfillment, that was kind of, the moment that I was like, oh yeah, now I've found kind of my community, my home, as far as YouTube.
Yeah, that's so good. And I love that you said like, you get that high, that energy, that whatever from helping people. That's totally how I am, and I kind of joke around to people like most people hate Mondays. They hate going to work, all that stuff. I'm like, usually I love Mondays. I love jumping in. In the past, since 2003 when I started my agency, there's been hard days, of course. There's been hard projects and people and all that, of course. But like overall, I love what I do. It's not this laborious work that I'm like, oh man, gotta go. So I love that passion aspect that you mentioned because not everybody has that, and it does kind of break my heart that people aren't able to find that, or it's a difficult thing for some people. Sometimes you're just doing their job, which I get, I respect, but when you can mix it with your passion, that's when magic can happen.
Yeah, and it makes it where really, well, I shouldn't say there are hard days, but
Totally.
every day, even the hard days are enjoyable, at least when you look back at them after you
Yeah.
push past them.
Exactly. When you remove yourself, some time there. Yeah.
No.
Another thing you mentioned is the community aspect. I know that you and I have been in a group with several other, similar people or whatever. And even last year when we had our kind of in-person event there, where there was, 15, 20 of us. And there was magic that happened because we could encourage each other, help each other, motivate, teach. I know several people in the group kind of skyrocketed their business from that. So,
and the community is very important. I don't think we always put enough emphasis on true community. And because we can call social media community, but it's not really community. And part of your community, should be some mentors, should be some people that you probably rub a little against the grain. I mean, you need that. I mean, I always, I joked, it was during one of the groups sessions that you and I were having, I really didn't completely agree with your viewpoint on a lot of it, but I did listen to it. And in the end, I know. Hopefully Amber doesn't listen to this because I hate saying it, but Jeff, you were right. And so, there's a lot of good, important things that happen when you get a community together.
I love it. I love it. And just, I'm going to clip that. I'm going to put it everywhere. I'm going to show my wife. I'm going to
just don't share it with Amber.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Done. I love it. So, you mentioned to me before we recorded, how you create your content. So tell me in the audience, are you super scripted? Are you, where in the spectrum of scripted versus authentic and off the cuff are you?
I am 100% unscripted. I think I was looking the other day, I have 1,121 videos and 2 of them were scripted. And they're probably the 2 worst videos I have, maybe. And I'm not knocking people that do script. Everybody's going to do their own way about that. But I am one of those that if I have a script, I'm going to be sitting over here just reading from the script. I'm not coming across as a human. I'm not coming across as somebody who has a vested interest in helping you. Really for me, helping, there it is. I mean, the first thing usually I try to think of is, what is that thing that the viewer needs? What is that thing that is keeping them up at night? And now sometimes I have something that maybe is going a little more in depth, or maybe there's a series, but those are the ones that I feel like I connect with the audience the most. And I don't know if I could ever script that part. I guess movies do it. So I guess some people can, but it's not something I'm good at.
Well, and Tim, what you just said was gold because I understand how companies for certain videos may need to script, get approved, for bigger companies, right? There's more ramifications, and I totally understand that. So I always talk about to people about, there's the highly polished professional side of the coin, and then there's the authentic side of the coin. And there's a time and a place for both. But what you just said is you look at what problems your ideal customer and audience has and then address those. And believe it or not, many companies just look inward. Hey, we want to sell a product and talk about ourselves and our company. And so they just hammer that home, and they're surprised when there's no engagement or it doesn't feel authentic. It feels corporate-y. So I love just how you said that and the reason for that. That's so key. A couple tips I do give people if they do feel like they have to be scripted is instead of scripting it out, maybe have bullet points, 3 to 5. Hey, I need to cover A, B, and C. It just kind of keeps them on track. That's actually what I do for myself. I respect people like you. I would lose my train of thought. I'd get frustrated. I don't know. It's so, when I hear people like you say you don't script it or whatever, then I'm like bowing down. That's awesome.
Well, but you bring up a very important point is there should only be one point.
Right.
And the downside, and I have to watch myself, but it is something that I've gotten better at with time, is the downside is you can wander off. And it's like, sure. I don't script, but I do have we'll call it rough title, sometimes the final title of the video before I hit the record button. And I know that this video is going to be on how to, I just went blank on what to call this, but yeah, how to do unscripted with Jeff Long. So I'm going to stick to that one thing because audiences do not like it when all of a sudden you do wander off. And yeah, I watch a lot of I watch a lot of my earlier content a lot of time just to see, okay, what has changed? What, maybe I had something that was really engaging and I do it again and it wasn't really engaging. And so, but a lot of times I'll have something in it. I feel like it, that should have worked really well. And I'll listen to myself and all of a sudden I realize, oh my gosh, I rambled for 3 minutes about something that was nothing to do with the topic here.
Yeah. What advice would you give for a company? Maybe they don't have any or much video content, and maybe it is on the highly produced professional side. Again, that's fine, one side of the coin. What would you recommend for whether they have, one person on their marketing team or 5 or whatever? Like, what are some ideas you could give that they might find success with creating video content, especially on the YouTube platform?
Well, I think you may only have one person in your marketing department, but you have other people out on the floor. Yes. If they are out there and they are assembling your product, you don't have to show the product in a perfect showcase and don't need a lot of production value. You can grab almost any phone, go out there and record the person and, hey, what are you doing today? Hey, I am putting the front plate on whatever it is that you build, but mainly add that human element. That's what I see. And now bigger companies can get away with different things than I think smaller companies. But I see too many small companies try to look at a big corporate video and say, that's the video I need. But if someone wants a corporate solution, they're going to go to a large corporation. They're not coming to you because they're looking for a corporate solution. They're looking for a human, chances are.
Yeah. I've heard it that, big companies try to make themselves look and feel small, and littler companies try to make themselves look big and impressive and all that, What you just said about, your company is full of experts in whatever field that might be, assembly or, delivery, whatever it is, engineering. I love that you said, hey, go out onto the shop floor, interview people. That's even a way to even a way pad their ego and congratulate them, show that
you feel like they're valued.
Totally. So it's kind of a double whammy. Like, yes, the video of this assembler is good for your customer, but it also probably makes that assembler or whoever kind of good about themselves. Like, hey, wife, family, whatever, I was highlighted on a video today, and that's pretty cool. So it helps with retention. It helps with just cohesiveness in the company, and that it's not always the owner or the executives on camera.
And it adds a different dimension to your product.
Right.
Okay, yes, you have a great showcase featured product here that, is sitting in the glass or whatever the world you're doing. But okay, also right here in the back is the person that is assembling. Like, you can't hear it in the mic, but I can hear clips being inserted in this next room. There's Amber and Mary Bruce, and I occasionally I'll go in there and just snap a picture of them. Yeah. Just post, hey, they're, we're assembling battery clips today for one of our products.
Yeah, I love it. So if you had to pick or recommend, playing either or here, should a company put more emphasis on like YouTube videos, like YouTube as a platform, or putting video content on another social media platform, whether it's LinkedIn, TikTok, Twitter, all that stuff? Like, make your case for YouTube?
Well, and obviously I am on the YouTube side.
Yeah.
So and there are different viewpoints on that. The way I look at it is, let's back up a little bit. One, what type of content are you doing? Are you trying to reach a new audience, or are you trying to curate an existing audience? Because that could matter some. But let's say that we're trying to reach a new audience. YouTube is the number 2 search platform in the world, and you can't beat that. And I do feel firmly, I think people spread themselves too thin. They'll post, the exact same content on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, their company page, all these places. And I'm always like, well, where's your community at? I mean, where are you actually investing in trying to build? Or, how much are you diluting it where if we only had one spot that video was, all of a sudden YouTube, whoever, LinkedIn would look at it and be like, oh, well, this video seems to be getting good engagement. Let me put it in front of more people. So for me, it is YouTube. But what the bigger thing I would say there is choose one.
Yeah. And that's, so I would agree and disagree with that. So some things I tell companies, go where your ideal customers are, right? So, that's one aspect, so if a marketer's like, Jeff, we want to do TikTok. Okay. I mean, let's consider it. Is your ideal customer there? Well, no, but, and I understand growing an audience, totally understand that. So there's, different platforms.
Well, it is also, I did say, because even after I was saying this, like, oh man, that sounded a little bit bad. I'd never said there that you should not participate in the other platforms.
Sure.
But it was, in this case, let's say we were doing a training on this PLC trainer here. I would have the one main video that really gives the meat and potatoes on YouTube. And I'll cut clips or maybe pictures or little excerpts of things and put them on other sites saying, here's where we were just recording how to do this. And I would leave it just at that. Actually, I don't even put the link usually to the actual video, because if someone wants it, they'll be like, hey, can I have that link? Well, at that point, you just probably just captured a little bit more audience than you would have if you had gone and thrown the link out there.
Yeah. And some things I like about YouTube, which you just mentioned a minute or so ago, Google owns YouTube. So that's a no-brainer right there. But also, I mean, just think about the other social media channels, outlets, and again, nothing against them. I think for me, it's a both and. But with YouTube, it's less disappearing, or like how many people are going to scroll down your LinkedIn feed past 2 days ago or whatever it is, your last 2 or 3 things, versus YouTube, it's there. It's almost like it's like an investment that builds and grows over time with views.
Well, and that's a double-edged sword. YouTube is a long game. I mean, I'm not looking at it in front of me. I would feel confident in saying that 90% of my engagement comes from videos that are over a year old. I mean, I would almost say maybe 95, but a strong number of them. But at the same time, there's a flip side of that is, you could start a TikTok account and you probably could grow it really fast because it is a younger platform, and I hear all the time, well, YouTube, you can't really grow an audience anymore. And I'm like, you can, because we actually have 2 other small channels that really I use almost for playing around and experimenting. And I mean, they get decent engagement as a small channel. So, but it's a long game. And it takes a long time to really build your audience. And for YouTube to realize, okay, every time we surface this piece of content, people do actually watch it. Now, along with that, and, I think right now with TikTok and a lot of them, you can throw different content out there, and they're kind of surfacing it all over the place. YouTube viewers really want to, it's not that they want to see the same thing, but if you're doing automation how-tos, don't be talking about your coast-to-coast walk across England, because even there, when I was posting it, that's on our downtime channel. And I made that just because I'm like, sometimes I just want to do a fun video. And I don't, and not everybody wants to see me having fun and walking across England. So.
Right. Well, and on top of that, I've seen different stats, and I think it's growing almost every year. 72% of B2B buyers fully do their research online before reaching out to a salesperson. So I would guess if somebody's looking for video content, they're Googling, quote unquote, on YouTube and Google for those videos. I don't know how many times they go to LinkedIn or the other platforms to Google or search video content there, because it's just not made for that. So
now when it comes to individuals, I do believe people will go on LinkedIn. So at the time that, okay, we're looking, who is Jeff Long? I do believe people look at LinkedIn then, but you've already captivated them at that point. You're a little further into that buyer's journey.
Right. Totally. Yeah. So what do you see, like how are most industrial companies using YouTube incorrectly? Anything else that we maybe haven't addressed?
Yeah, I think we kind of or mentioned it, but we did not really nail home is talking about themselves. I just watched one this morning. Somebody even sent me a message like, "Hey, let me know what you think of this video." And I won't publicly rip a video, but it gives some good constructive feedback. Is the first 30 seconds of the video was really telling everything about their company, and really, you were nearly a minute and a half in before you started feeding anything that the viewer may find valuable. Is throw that value on the very front end of the video. And you don't need to tell them to like, subscribe, or any of those things. Just give them that thing that will, feel beneficial to them. And I think that's where, I think companies kind of similar, we're talking about bios, is your bio, it needs to be on the tail end of the video. And so provide that, benefit, then tell them who you are. Because one, if they're still watching near the end of the video, they care about who you are. Because I think it's, 3 to 5 seconds is typical what you have to really hook your audience. After that, they're gone to another video.
Right. How much do you go back and analyze your past videos, whether it was last week's, last month's, whatever, and how does that inform future videos? Like, as you're looking at that YouTube analytics.
Yeah. So, and the strong thing I tell everybody is don't get caught up in views. Even as I say that, I can't lie. I do sometimes get caught up in views because sometimes I'm just like, I know this is going to be a good, hard-hitting video. And when you post it, YouTube kind of tells you how it's performing compared to the last 10 videos. And, I'll have one sitting there at a 7 and a 10. And I'm like, man, I just thought that was going to be a good hitter. But there is a more important one. And I think this is important, whether it's a successful video or a bad video. And that's the audience retention, because I think that tells us where we did things right and where we did things wrong. And, I could care less how many people watch my video. I want to know how many people watch the end of my video. That's the real key. And so you're always going to have a dip at the beginning. Some people just are going to click on it and be like, yeah, either I don't like this guy, it's not the format I was looking for. Oops, I accidentally clicked on the wrong video. Don't feel like he's answering. So you're going to see a dip there. And after that, though, one, we don't want that dip to be hard. We could probably spend a couple podcasts talking about that. But after that, you hope for a steady decline. You don't want to see any peaks or valleys. And so if all of a sudden your audience, 1 minute in just dips off, I'll go back and watch that part and be like, okay, what did I say? And either I did one of two things. I'll say three things. I had answered the person's question and they're gone, but probably that should have been the end of the video. Or I said something offensive, and unfortunately, sometimes I look back and I'm like, oh man, I came across wrong. Or I rambled. And all of a sudden people are like, all right, I can't deal with that anymore. The other one you'll see is a valley. And the valley usually is rambling, or, I'm doing something and somebody's scrubbing across the video trying to find where I get back to the actual meat and potatoes of it. And the other one, though, that I believe is not getting given enough attention is spikes. So sometimes, your audience retention is going down and you'll see it raise back up and you'll have a little hump in it. And usually you said something important there. And what I find a lot of times, though, is maybe this was supposed to be a video about, since we're talking about audience retention now, maybe just on how to find your audience retention. And all of a sudden I talked about spikes. And so people go back and they replay that part. And so talking about finding valuable content, whatever I said in there usually is not going to be the main topic of that video. And so that will make a good, video on its own. So I'll write that down as something. But yeah, really looking at those, trying to make those declines. You hate to use the word decline, but you're always going to have decline in audience retention as your video goes on. Making them as flat as possible and mainly getting rid of any valleys or hard drops.
That's good. That's a masterclass right there. I appreciate it. As we kind of land the plane here, whenever I'm working with companies about content, like what video content do we create? Because again, most people think, okay, we've got to sell this product, we've got to promote ourselves, we've got to, it's more inward focus. And so we're on the same page, think, ideal customer focus. So, I always help them with like a content roadmap. So frequently asked questions, problems that are in your industry or opportunities, or, so we have a whole roadmap of like what to talk about, and then we customize it for that. But where do you draw some of your inspiration for new content? You mentioned you have over 1,100 videos. That's a lot of video content, Tim. That's awesome. How do you get new ideas for more videos?
Well, back up a little bit on the product, because you're right. A lot of companies do one of two things. They 100% focus on sales, or they 0% focus on sales. And neither of those are right, because actually I was in the 0% focus on the sales. Really, out of those 1,100 videos, now I think like 40 of them are sales related. That's a really poor ratio. And, I went to one consulting, and I kind of think their rule is decent, is about 20% of your videos probably should be sales focused. So really they went with a 2-2-1 approach. You want 2 discoverable, 2 community, and 1 sales. And I was really stuck in the discoverable. I mean, you want to search for anything PLC related, chances are I come up, that's kind of cool. And that's what I used to think is, well, we just got to keep on, thinking what questions are going to ask next and try to cover those. And there's nothing wrong with that. But what I didn't realize at the time was you also need to nurture those that, you have engaged with. And so, the discoverer will always say that is, what is keeping them up at night, but then start thinking, okay, how are they feeling? What are those things that they're struggling with? And yeah, even if we're selling a nut or a bolt, there's still feelings involved. Right. It may be a little harder to find, but, trying to build a community around, whatever it is that you're trying to sell. And then, yeah, there's nothing wrong with the sales video. And I still struggle with that one, which is really the funny part.
Right. So talk to me about the community type videos. What does that look like from your side of things?
So a lot of times it can be, I always say sometimes I feel like the automation therapist. Sometimes, all I do is talk to people who are, having trouble at their job, having trouble maybe getting that promotion, having trouble with a failed project. Honestly, sometimes it's having trouble with dealing with successful projects, but really starting to think, okay, how can you make a video that kind of talks about those things, talks about some, adversity. Adversity ones always do well, but there's nothing wrong with also, hey, guys, some of you are having really good success here. Here are some things to think about, because all of a sudden one day it'll be really quiet. And, you need to be thinking about your mental health, and those won't be resounding videos, but I probably have more people respond later on being like, hey, you were right about that. I should have, I think our industry really does not do enough as far as that part of it.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Well, Tim, I could ask questions all day long. I'm just going to ask one more as we land the plane here. So I call this one tool time. Do you have a favorite tool that you've used in regards to your videos, YouTube, something like that?
Well, I use a ton of them. I mean, and this isn't endorsed, and honestly, this is just because it happened to come to my head first. One that I use a lot of is TubeBuddy. I don't use it in the sense that it probably was intended for, or any of that, but I use it to do a lot of video planning and trying to see, okay, is there enough audience here for me to make a video? And so, and then since we're talking about audience retention, I would go to TubeBuddy and maybe search for audience retention. And it gives you some really important indicators. Is first, it kind of lets you know, all right, is this really in your area of focus? Which obviously, being that I am an automation channel, it would not be. And so we get that indicator right away. But, sometimes I'll get the indicator, okay, this would complement some of my videos. And then it kind of shows you, okay, here are the ones that are out there. And usually I'll go watch them. And kind of along the same line, just because someone else has made this video doesn't mean it's the perfect video. A lot of times I'll ask, okay, well, what question did that leave me with when at the end of that video? Can I address that piece? But yeah, so I use it a lot of times to kind of just experiment with, I've made a lot of content that was a waste of time. And I think it helps me vet a ton of my content. And embarrassingly, sometimes I think of a video topic and I put it in there and the number one search result is me with almost identical video. And I'm like, oh, well, that would have been a really bad video.
Right. I love it. Well, Tim, I really appreciate you being here on the show, just giving your story, but also these insights on content and YouTube and how to create better videos. I love your almost data scientist approach about looking at analytics, right? Believe it or not, that's important, very important. And so I appreciate that. So thanks for being on the show here today.
Well, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me, Jeff.
All right. Well, that was my interview with my good friend, Tim Wilborne. I hope you learned a lot. I know I did too. Some things that really, stood out to me were just the practical tips on engagement and views and what to pay attention to in YouTube analytics, as well as how to be in tune with your ideal customers. What content do they need to listen to? What content do you need to create that will resonate with them? It's really good to create self-promotional videos on your company, your products and services, but you also need to create content that is customer focused, that deals with their problems they're facing and how you solve them and various things like that. So like I said before, I hope you enjoyed that interview with Tim. I've known him for a long time, have sat down with him, ate meals, and know him besides just on the work level. He's a great guy, one of these guys you could talk about business, life, family, a myriad of other topics, fun guy. And so it was really fun for me to get him on the show here today. Well, hey, that is all for today with the Industrial Marketing Leaders Podcast. Make sure to check out the other episodes. And also, I would love it if you subscribed on your audio podcast player or on YouTube. That would mean a lot to me. All right, thanks so much. I'll talk to you on the next show.